Oh man, I can hear the comments already.
How come you're making a Principal Fakey video when you haven't even made a Miss Censor Doll video? That's one of your most requested things ever! How dare you!
Alright, relax everybody. There's a perfectly good explanation for this. For one, the Censor Doll video is in the works, but it's just taking a little while longer than I thought. And two, I'm of the very rare opinion that Principal Fakey is a lot more interesting than people give him credit for. Yeah, sure, he only gets one episode to himself, and he's not as layered as, say, Clay, Blaberta, or Reverend Putty. But as a member of the Christian faith, I can firmly say that Principal Fakey needs a lot more attention. Why? Well, let me explain. I've always said that Moral Oral isn't a show that's based around making fun of Christianity. It's about exploring the bad Christians who help make Christianity look bad, and Fakey is one of the biggest examples. First of all, there's the obvious aspect of him being the principal of Diorama Elementary, and he doesn't really care about his job or his students. He's just there to take a paycheck, and that's about it. He's not interested in qualified teachers, just ones that work for cheap. And when he does do something nice for his students, he wants something in return. For example, in the episode Love, where he buys a new playground for the students, he expects them to lavish him with all this extravagant praise and thanks, but no, they're too busy spending time looking at a dog, so naturally this can't be allowed to continue. Or the episode Prayer, where if Oral wins the prayer bee, Diorama Elementary will be celebrated for its spirituality. Not like spirituality really matters to Principal Fakey, but imagine just how much his life would change if he had the label of Principal of the most religious school in America. I mean, it probably wouldn't really do that much for him, but in a town like Moralton, it wouldn't hurt, so why not pursue it? It's a story that's seen time and time again, inside and outside of the church. If someone gets a little bit of power, they'll stretch it as far as it can go, whether it's to impose their beliefs on other people, or for an undeserved ego boost. It's still an unfortunate part of human nature. But that's not the only negative aspect of humanity that Principal Fakey indulges in. He also can't accept responsibility for his actions. There's a whole episode about it called Repression, and personally, it's one of my favorites in Season 2. He's married to Millie Fakey, and he doesn't really care all that much about her. The one he really cares about is Nurse Bendy, but he doesn't care about her on any emotional or spiritual level. It's all physical, and even then, it's only physical for him. Fakey's having all the fun. Meanwhile, Bendy zones out, or just goes about her day. You could argue that him thinking that Nurse Bendy is head over heels for him just like how he is head over heels for her could tie into his ego, but I don't know, it could just as easily be him being an idiot, which he kind of is. What's the point I'm trying to make in all this? Well, Fakey loves to spend quality time with Nurse Bendy until he, again, fires the load. The very second he's finished, he's very remorseful for what he's done. He goes from, oh yeah, to, woe is me, I'm a terrible person, how can I live with myself? And then he starts to care about his wife back home. But by then, it's already too late. He's committed a sin. So what does he do about it?
Nothing
at all. In fact, the one time he does have a moment of clarity and goes to seek some help from Reverend Putty, who turns out to be no help whatsoever, he ends up coming across Oral, who tells him to repress his feelings because, as we all know, he's an authority figure. He can't do anything wrong. So Fakey continues to do what he's always been doing and burying his feelings and continuing to live in sin. But then he takes it a step further by throwing his wife out and getting more aggressive with Nurse Bendy. Even after her tragic incident in Alone, and her finding some happiness with her son Joe, he keeps going after her regardless of how she feels. And I'm sure the cycle keeps repeating. He goes after her, he has sex with her, he feels terrible, and then it repeats. In a town as religious as Moralton that's supposed to understand the works of God better than anyone else, It's amazing that Fakey will not change what he's doing. See, one of the most important parts about being forgiven by God is that you repent. It's like what Jesus said all the time when he would forgive sinners. Go and sin no more. God cannot be fooled. He knows your heart. So no matter how many times Fakey will scream to the heavens, "Oh, I feel terrible, I'm a sinner, forgive me," God knows it's not legit. Now there's a big difference between addiction and choice. If you asked Fakey, and of course he would have to be real for you to ask him, he would say that he's addicted to Nurse Bendy and he can't get enough of her body. Like physically cannot get enough. But that's not true. He's making the continuous choice to go after her and betray his marriage vows, and put Nurse Bendy in many uncomfortable and unwanted situations. So the fact that this is all a choice, that he is going out of his way to do something wrong, and that he knows is wrong, and does nothing about it, speaks volumes to where his heart truly is. To any outsider, a town like Moralton seems to be led by the most austere, devout Christians ever, but that's not the case. Christians are not immune from sin, nor are they immune from making bad choices, but if they really cared about what they've done, and if they really cared about what their Heavenly Father tells them to do, then they would try and break the cycle, even if it is an addiction. But as we've said, this is not an addiction, this is straight up 100% deliberately choosing to do the wrong thing. Now this is where we can tie Fakey's ego back into things. Fakey considers himself to be above everyone else. We already knew that. We've established that he's an egomaniac and he abuses his power, but he also considers himself above God. The desires of the flesh, to him, are more important than the needs of the soul. He believes in God, he goes through the motions at church, and he presents himself as a leading religious figure in the community, but his heart doesn't match. And he's too stuck in his ways to ever change. He takes rules for thee, not for me, to a whole other level. Which, even if it is on a smaller scale, is something that happens a lot in the Christian community. Sometimes a sin can be too comfortable or too familiar to get rid of, so they keep it a part of their everyday lives. And to be clear, this isn't always something as major as infidelity. It can be smaller things like lying or unrighteous anger or egotism, but the point still stands. It's the embodiment of that old Mr. Enter quote. You know the one. What I'm doing is wrong, I know that it's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is especially prevalent in religious leaders who would rather present the image of being a religious leader rather than actually helping people find salvation through God. More often than not, these people are stuck up their own butts and would rather look at the speck in their neighbor's eye rather than address the plank in their own. These people, more often than not, will claim that they're doing this for the non-believers. They need to present that image for their sake. After all, who would trust a sinful pastor, right? Well, first of all, some of the best pastors came from sinful backgrounds. And second, that's not true. Because if you present the holier-than-thou image, you're only going to alienate people and thereby hurt your faith, not strengthen it. And let's be real, that's not something that Fakey cares about. It's all about making himself look good for his own self-worth. Everything is about himself. He won't spend money on the kids because he wants it for himself. He won't take Nurse Bendy's lack of interest or consent into account when he, does things with her. It's all about what he wants. So he'll make believe and pretends that she's interested. That way, it's not him sinning, it's them sinning together. And then the big one. When it comes time to take accountability for his actions, he blames his wife. Within the context of the episode, it shows that he has blocked all the stuff he's doing with Nurse Bendy out of his memory, but he did this to spare himself. If you ask me, Fakey is the embodiment of Moralton's hypocrisy. It's all about the surface level and not what's deep inside. Meanwhile, Christianity is supposed to be the other way around. It doesn't matter how other people perceive you. All that matters is how God sees you, and he doesn't look on the outside. He looks on the inside, but these people don't care. They will gladly commit whatever sin they'd like, they can damage the reputation of their religion, that's all fine. But if somebody else does it, then that's a big problem. And in order to be accepted socially, you must conform to their very rigid and impossible standards. So many people in Moralton take the fakey road of ignoring their sin and pursuing it further, helping it develop and grow stronger. But to me, Fakey embodies this the best. See, Clay has the added aspect of having all these different layers of childhood trauma and narcissism and his family dynamic that he doesn't want to be involved in. While Censor Doll is a pure evil villain with plans of town domination, and possibly even some voodoo magic, but Fakey, on the other hand, is a pretty realistic representation of what the show is trying to convey. It's folks like Fakey that help drive Moralton down a bad path. But so long as he's not being inconvenienced, that's just fine. Let me tell you, it's a good thing that Moralton has folks like Oral who are ready to take over once they get older and help steer the town in a good direction, because otherwise, this town is going to crumble. And it won't take all that long to do it. Before we get to our Patreon stuff, it's time for another fan art shoutout, and this one comes to us from Lady Sega Genesis. I was having a pretty bad day when I saw this one, and it cheered me right up. First of all, I love anything that can make me laugh, and this has so many in-jokes in it that I don't even know where to begin. First of all, it's got Lou from Mike Lou and Og, which has been a long-standing punching bag on this channel, mostly because of my very weird relationship with it. It's kind of a roller coaster if you're new to the channel. And then there's also me as the enemy sales guy from Kirby Right Back At Ya. Many have said that I kind of look like him a little, and also some in my personal work life say that I have that salesman's tone, whatever that means, so thank you very much, Lady Sega Genesis. Again, I really appreciate it, and it means a lot that you took some time to make this. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What do you think is the worst thing that Fakey has done, and do you agree with my analysis that he's practically Moralton personified? Comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, Manny Paredes, MD the Dude, Ryan Williams, and Woody Woo. And now our executive producers, Aaron Vasquez, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Indiscreet One, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then why not donate to the Patreon? We've got a link in the description below for you to check out. Down there, we've also got a link to the Media Mementos Discord server. Why not pop in and say hello? Why not pop in and say hi?